Yeah.
Good.
Yes, I can.
As for Karen, any apologies for absence, please? Karen, you're muted.
Thank you, Chairman. My apologies. Today we received apologies from Councillor McCatter and Councillor Kent G. Councillor Stephen Philpott and Councillor Brooks are attending today's meeting as Conservative deputy members.
Okay, thank you. Members, just to remind you, if you have any declarations of interest, you can make them now if you wish, or when we meet the item on the agenda that's affected. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Okay, thank you. With that, move to the minutes of the previous meeting held on 30th of September. Members, do any of you have any queries at all? If not, can we, by raise of hands, accept those minutes?
Agreed.
Thank you. We have no deputations.
Chairman, sorry, it's Carolyn here. I just wonder, did you wish to receive an update under item 187 of the minutes as regards our external audit of our annual accounts, please?
Ah, yes, in relation to the cash flow statements and elements.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn. Yes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Colleagues, just to update you, I sent a note to all county councillors to let you know that our audit sign-off would be delayed beyond the end of November. And that was due to a requirement for us to produce a very detailed month-by-month cash flow statement up until the end of March 2022. I can confirm that that exercise is complete as of the end of last week, and we have been able to present the very comprehensive spreadsheet to our external audit colleagues. They will now take a short period of time in order to assess the cash flow as part of their assessment of going concern. And therefore, I would expect, hopefully early in the new year, to have an update position. Thank you. And Kevin Suter from External Audit from EY, I think, is in attendance and may wish to make any comments.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity. Yes, just to reinforce that we do have the cash flow information now that we have required. And we have been in discussions with the finance team from the council as they have developed that. So hopefully that will enable us to be able to turn it around in a efficient and effective manner after the Christmas period, because a few of the questions that we would have been needing to ask, we've resolved those already in the process. So we very much hope, in line with Carolyn's statement, that we will be able to turn this around for you and to sign off the accounts as fast as we can in the new year.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And tell me, Carolyn, is this something that we will produce on a regular basis? It's not. This is
no. This is actually a one-off exercise to produce this as a spreadsheet in the presentation required by our external audit colleagues. We do use cash flow forecasting as part of our treasury management and investment, but as a large organisation with significant investment balances, we tend to take a different view. We don't produce extensive spreadsheets. We do prepare, if we were to do that, it would involve many members of staff across the various departments who would probably be ill-equipped to accurately forecast, and obviously an inaccurate forecast spreadsheet is less useful than not having one at all. We don't ignore cash flow. We do take a slightly different view, as I noted. And Arlen Close are our external advisors, and obviously we are significantly internally borrowed. So we do have weekly cash flow meetings to discuss plans and options around our investment strategy, and we do have cash flow forecasting in a slightly different manner to that required by EY that looks at the large investment balances coming back in, the large aspects of expenditure, etc. It's just undertaken in a slightly different manner to the manner in which EY required it, which is in a much more month-by-month, extremely detailed line-by-line approach. So the two come to the same, but the one-off effort that was required to produce this for our external auditors required us to basically go in and download every bank transaction that we hold within our ERP system, and then use that to recreate a spreadsheet and create projections. So it was quite a mammoth task of data extract, data manipulation, and then presentation. Thank you.
Will we have to do the same again next year?
I'll look to Kevin. I would imagine this will become an annual exercise for audit purposes. Yeah.
So it is a different requirement we've asked for this year, and very much linked to the COVID-19 pandemic, as you know, very much an unprecedented issue that has impacted local authorities. I'm not saying it's impacted all local authorities in the same way. Some are more pressured than others, but we have decided as a firm we needed to pay more attention to this in this circumstance. To the question of whether it will be required in next year, I'm not entirely sure. One of the reasons being that one of the sets of rules and guidance we work to, which is called Practice Note 10, it applies auditing standards to the public sector. That has recently been revised. So we are taking our time to work through that to make sure we understand it properly and can apply it properly and efficiently in the next year. Taking some advice of our regulators as well. So I can't give you a clear answer, yes or no, but we are definitely considering how we will approach this issue again next year, cognizant of the fact that we don't want to be making finance officers undertake a whole lot of work if it is not necessary.
Understood. Clearly, as much advance notice as possible would be welcome.
Yes, we very much understand that.
Okay. With that, let's move to the go through here.
Chairman, apologies for the interruption. I think Councillor McAvoy has her hand raised.
Oh, yes, Alexis, you're muted.
I haven't got my hand raised, so I don't know what's going on there. Does it show it raised?
Yes, it does. It's gone now. It's gone now. Okay.
Didn't touch anything. Sorry.
Agenda item 6, which is the use of regulatory powers. Peter?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is the usual quarterly reporting on the County Council's use of surveillance powers under REPA. The spreadsheet is on page 15 of your papers, and from that you'll see that the County Council has used those powers actually only once in the first 2 quarters of this year in the communications data area. And it's probably worthwhile me just explaining those figures for you a little bit. This is where the County Council seeks the identity of who owns a website or who owns an email account from the website and email account providers. So an individual may have several email accounts or several websites. So although in the first column the information says that we've undertaken one application under REPA, there were 18 specific queries within that one application. So the individual may have had several email accounts or several websites, and that all relates to rogue trading. Happy to take any questions though.
Thank you, Peter. Members, do you have any comments or questions for Peter? No? Okay. Peter, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Move to item 7, which is the internal audit progress report. Neil, could you run through this for us?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so this item presents Appendix 1 are standard internal audit progress reports, and at Appendix 2, the outcome of the Southern Internal Audit Partnership's recent external quality assessment.
Yes, on that one, Neil, if you could explain that one to us, because that came out yesterday.
It did, certainly. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, members will have received correspondence from Caroline yesterday in relation to Appendix 2. And when we get to Appendix 2, I will ask members to refer to the supplementary paper that was sent out yesterday, and ignore, if you will, the document on pages 37 to 49 of your agenda packs. Please do accept my apologies for this mix-up. It was the fault totally rests at my door, and I do thank Caroline for her efforts yesterday in kind of rectifying the situation for me.
Okay, Neil.
Thank you. So if I could initially take you to Appendix 1, which starts on page 21 of your packs. And this presents our progress report as at November 2020. Hopefully the format is familiar to members, and if I could take you straight to page 25 of your packs. This presents our performance dashboard, and in the top left-hand section shows our progress against the 2021 plan to date, including those carried forward from our 1920 work. I think it's fair to say that COVID had an impact on our closing the 1920 work and in commencing our initial work in Q1 reviews. However, we have made significant strides to catch up during Q2 and Q3. And this has been really helped by the engagement and cooperation of officers across the organisation in adapting so positively to our new virtual audit approach, and from both officers and the audit team embracing the available technology to enable us to continue with the audit plan and programme. So we currently sit in a position where we have 72% of the reviews within the 2021 plan either up and running or completed or finalised. So the section later on in the report gives a bit more of a granular status that will hopefully be helpful to members.
But that also indicates, Neil, only 28% completed, and
Well,
there's only a few months to go.
There's 28 yet to commence. Absolutely. What we have got.
No, 28% is 28% completed, and 47% work in progress. So you might say that we're certainly top loading the rear end of this year.
There is. I mean, I would say of those 47%, they are at various stages. There are a number at that kind of draft report stage, so okay. They'll be just flipping over to the final. But yes, absolutely, there's still plenty of work to be done this year. Positively, all of the reviews have been allocated to auditors. We know as things stand, we have the resource there to accommodate the reviews in the plan, and they are now primarily scheduled in for completion in a timely fashion for the end of the year.
Okay.
If I could just take you on to page 26 of this presents the status of all our live reports at the moment, and we deem those as the ones where there's management actions still to be completed. Now that can either be because they're pending, and that means that they haven't reached their implementation date yet, or they've slipped past their implementation date and are potentially overdue, and those are detailed in the far right-hand side column. In fairness, I think this again provides a fairly positive picture across the organisation in respect of the low level of overdue actions. Certainly across a number of our other partners and in discussions with peers in other organisations, certainly there's been a significant increase in respect of overdue actions that they've experienced due to the pressures of COVID, due to reprioritisations of work, and we haven't experienced that within Hampshire County Council. And again, I think it's testament to officers for their continual diligence in respect of implementing the management actions from the audit reviews. Did you want me to pause? I just see Councillor McAvoy's got a question.
Yes, please, Chairman, if that's okay. Just explain to me, what's the difference between adequate and reasonable? Because neither sounds particularly brilliant.
Okay. By all means, yeah, thank you. If I could take you back to page 24 of your document, that gives a narrative explanation in respect of what reasonable looks like. In reasonable is a replacement for the old adequate. So what we done probably about 12 months ago was adopt the new SITFA narrative in and around our conclusions would be substantial, reasonable, limited, or no assurance. In that kind of order of importance, and the adequate was very, very similar in respect of its narrative in respect as the reasonable is now. So
I guess, I mean, who chooses what these are? Who monitors the monitors? It's like they've been randomly picked out of a hat, really.
What in respect of what they're called, as in the substantial, reasonable, limited, or no? I mean, to be honest, I think that's why SITFA looked to rationalise and provide some consistency in that narrative. Beforehand, it was very much down to individual organisations how they termed those assurance levels. In SITFA have now put some standardisation into that. So what we do is follow the SITFA template in respect of what that assurance opinion is and the narrative that sits alongside it.
So do you actually have a process of how to follow through on these? I mean, it's all very well having an item which says it's adequate or it's reasonable, but you know, how do you take that forward to improve it?
That's our job, Alexis. If we're not happy,
so well, you see, I've not done it very well, have I?
No, if we're not happy with the assurance opinion, we should ask questions. Okay, so, but I think it makes sense to have a common approach in terms of what the opinions are, rather than flip-flop from one year to the next. So I'm quite happy with that, but it's a pity we don't have any which are substantial. All of ours are limited or adequate. Excuse me. So I'm quite happy with that, but if we're not happy with them, we should drill down further. And Councillor Thacker.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to agree that I think if we're going to have an assurance level listed, the narrative on page 24 should address that. So we should have something for adequate as well as reasonable and limited. But the question I have specifically is, could Neil please remind me what the numbers in parentheses mean? And the second part of the question is, how does our overdue compare to the last time we saw this report, please?
The brackets identify, so if we, on page 26, if we look at the top line, so we've got the health and safety statutory checks.
I've seen the high priority, Neil, just now. I didn't do the mapping in my mind. Sorry.
Okay, no, that's absolutely fine.
So the question is how the remaining question is how does our overdues compare to previous reports? Do you recall?
Certainly, I've seen a positive direction in respect of the overdue actions. I think there's significantly less than there has been in the past. And as I say, it's particularly pleasing with everything that's gone on this year and the priorities that have been elsewhere within the organisation, that they remain at a very low level by comparison.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Neil, would you like to continue?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think the only other thing I really wanted to mention was on page 27 through to the end of the report. It kind of breaks down in this goes back to the 47% that's kind of work in progress that you alluded to, Chair, the kind of current status of those. So the ticks indicate how far along the line they actually are. So hopefully you can see with the number of ticks going across, we're nearing completion on a number of those that are detailed at the 47%, and they'll come through to fruition and be reported as final to the next report committee.
Okay, thank you. Neil, you.
No, thank you, Chairman. I don't think there's anything else that I really need to bring to members' attention, but obviously more than happy to take any questions.
Do you have any questions or comments? Okay, let's move to the...
Chairman, apologies. Councillor Thacker has his hand raised.
Councillor Thacker.
That is a mistake. Would you mind putting it down for me, Caroline? Thank you.
Okay, Neil.
Thank you, Chairman. So that takes me on to Appendix 2, and as I say, if I could draw members' attention to the supplementary paper that was sent out to you all yesterday. This report.
This is the one headed External Quality Assessment.
That's the one. Yes, that's the one that I should have included.
Okay. Perhaps you could explain this to us, please?
I will indeed, Chairman. Thank you. So this report is authored by the Institute of Internal Auditors, and it details the outcome of the Southern Internal Audit Partnership's recent external quality assessment. So there's a requirement within the professional standards that we have to comply with that at least every 5 years as an internal audit provider, we are required to undertake an external quality assessment by a wholly independent body. The purpose of it is really to report on our conformance with the industry standards. And I'm pleased to say that the report provides a reasonably positive read, and it confirms on page 5 of the report that we conform to all aspects of the international professional practices framework, all aspects of the public sector internal audit standards, and all aspects of the local government application note. So I think this provides a fairly credible endorsement from the Institute of Internal Auditors of our conformance as an internal audit provider to the industry standards, particularly as it's the Institute of Internal Auditors themselves that actually author those standards, so they kind of live and breathe them. So as I say, hopefully a credible endorsement. An additional benefit of commissioning the Institute of Internal Auditors to undertake this review for us is that they also assess us against their internal audit maturity matrix, and that can be found on page 9 of the report. And again, that provides a really credible benchmark against not only public sector providers, but also private sector providers of internal audit, for which the Institute of Internal Audit have undertaken external quality assessments across the country. And within that matrix, they've assessed us as excellent in 3 areas and good in 2. And that's denoted by the greyed out boxes there on page 9. So just over the page on page 10 and extending to page 11, the narrative here elaborates a little bit further on the SWOT analysis that's detailed earlier in the report in respect of potential improvement opportunities. It's important to just note that these areas, they don't impact on our conformance with the standards in any way, but they are helpful insights to achieving that kind of excellent status across the board, which obviously we strive to do as a partnership, in obviously ensuring that we optimise our internal offering to our stakeholders. Pleasingly, within the narrative on pages 10 and 11, within those improvement opportunities, there's nothing there that we weren't necessarily aware of. However, the commentary and the suggestions provided by the external assessment team have been and will be very useful in taking those initiatives forward, so we can address them accordingly within and across the partnership. We have pulled together an action plan to address those areas. That action plan is presented to and monitored by the key stakeholder board, which is represented by Carolyn for Hampshire County Council, and is a forum that works with all of the representative partners across the Southern Internal Audit Partnership. I think that's probably all I really felt I needed to draw your attention to, but hopefully it will provide some assurance to yourselves as a committee in relation to us as your internal audit team and providers, and also some assurance in assisting you to kind of discharge your duties as an audit committee as a whole, and how we contribute to that.
Okay.
I don't think there was anything else I particularly needed to draw to your attention, Chair, but again, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Neil. No, the report overall does give assurance that we are following methods and procedures well and achieving the end objectives. Members, do you have any questions or comments? No? Okay, thank you.
Chairman, yes, I do. I put my hand up, but it's presuming my hand facility doesn't work. Can I just ask a question? I realise this is a very fast-moving situation at the moment with the virus and everything else, and this report is reasonably recent. It's 14th of September, so it's just 3 months ago. But one notes on page 8, for instance, it says under the threats, it says a potential second wave of COVID could impact service delivery and threaten the ability of the CIA to deliver annual opinion. I would contend, although maybe it's a debatable point, that we are actually already in the second wave of COVID, Chairman. Has that actually come to pass? Has that made a difference at all in terms of the CIA's ability to deliver the opinion? I wondered if that might help them. Help me there.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Philpott. No, it's an excellent question. In respect of was it a threat at the time? Absolutely. Has it come to fruition? Thankfully not at the moment. I think we're in a very fortunate position within Hampshire and with the partnership, in that due to the size of the partnership, it does add significant resilience to our service provision to Hampshire County Council. And thankfully, again, with the virtual world that we're operating in, even if we do have members of the team isolating, they still have the ability to work because they're not actually going into face-to-face meetings. So it's only if somebody does actually contract the virus that we are at any significant risk. And touch wood, we've been very lucky in that respect as well. But I think the size and the resilience of the section and the technology in the virtual world that we're working in now has all really helped that situation.
Thank you, Neil. Members, any other questions or comments? No? With that, are you happy to note both the internal progress report and the external quality assessment report? Could you put your hands up, please? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Chairman.
Over to item 8, which is the Treasury Management Mid-Year Monitoring Report. Who's running through this, Carolyn?
That would be me. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, Rob, sorry.
Hello.
Okay.
So this is the Treasury Management Mid-Year Report. So this covers the period to the 30th of September. There's a little bit of background. So the impact on the economy of the coronavirus pandemic this year has come on top of Brexit uncertainty and, as you're aware, a period of historically low interest rates. So bank rate was cut to 0.1% in March. The Bank of England hasn't ruled out moving to negative bank rates, and actually there have been negative interest rates in parts of the market already anyway. A significant programme of quantitative easing from the Bank of England, high levels of government spending, of course, to support the economy and the impact on GDP of parts of the economy being closed down due to the lockdowns. So from a Treasury management perspective, Arlen Close have identified additional risks and reduced the number of counterparties they're happy for us to lend to, and also the duration for those risks. So today I will focus on the investments part of the report. This is because the councils continue to be a lender rather than a borrower. So if we move to paragraph 28 on page 56. So table 4 shows the breakdown of investments held at the end of September. So you'll see that the balance in money market funds has reduced. This was high at year end due to needing the liquidity to pay the early pension payment on the 1st of April. You'll also see that the council has sold fixed bonds from the higher yielding strategy. So this was on the advice of Arlen Close. Because of things that were going on in the market, the price of those bonds had increased quite a lot since they were purchased. And this resulted in a gain of about £3 million for the council on the sale of those assets. And that's now being reinvested into pooled funds to increase the diversification within the investment portfolio. Paragraphs 36 to 38 talk about interest rates available in short-term markets. So money market funds, whereas last year we may have been getting 0.7%, have been down closer to 0, maybe 0.1% in some cases. And the Treasury's debt management account deposit facility has actually moved below 0% for overnight and some short-term deposits at times. So the council hasn't needed to use this account, but we do need to be able to maintain access to it because it's a very secure way of investing as you're lending to the UK government, and that's important in times of market distress. We'll continue to avoid having to invest at negative rates, but we do have the appropriate governance in place to enable us to do so if necessary, where there are no more suitable alternatives. So now moving to table 5 on page 60. So this shows the benchmarking of the council's internally managed investments against other Arlen Close clients. So obviously you can see the impact of lower interest rates in the market. So the average return has fallen since the end of March, albeit it's still higher than Arlen Close clients on average, which is positive. And as part of that, the council's benefited from having longer term investments that were agreed when rates were higher. So although it's been a challenging environment, I think the benchmarking shows some positives in terms of how the council's been able to manage its cash within this environment. The last thing that I'll talk about is the pooled fund investment. So this starts from paragraph 45. And you'll recall from the meeting in July that these investments had seen a significant fall in value due to the impact of COVID-19 on markets in March. Although that any loss is only a paper loss as long as you don't sell the investments, and the council doesn't intend to sell them at present. Asset values have continued to be volatile, but have been on an upward trend, and some areas have recovered more quickly than others. But in aggregate, the council's seen an improvement since year end. As this report was dated the end of September, I did ask Arlen Close to provide some updated numbers earlier this week. And this shows that the investments are now showing a paper loss of around 10 million, which is an improvement of about 8 million since the end of March. So again, it shows that that volatility, which is well understood, I know, within the strategy, that increased volatility compared with cash, with the acceptance that these assets should generate a much greater income return than cash, particularly at the moment where interest rates are so low. We continue to review these investments with Arlen Close. They continue to be happy that they're suitable in meeting the council's objectives, although that doesn't mean, of course, that the council will hold them forever, and that's demonstrated in the recent sale of some of the long-term bonds from the portfolio. So I'll leave things there, but I'm very happy, of course, to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Members, any comments or questions? I think overall, this shows we are adhering to our directional strategies that we review every 6 months, which is good news. And I think everyone can see from the stock market, day by day, there's an up one day and down another day. So yes, you have to take a long-term view over some of these matters, don't you? But members, Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. This may be a silly question, but looking at your table 5, investment
what page is
benchmarking, it's page 60. It's the table that we were just referred to.
Okay.
Can you? What caught my eye is that the weighted average maturity days for us is 608, and for average across all local authorities is 18. That seems to be a massive difference. Is there a reason for that?
It will relate to, in a lot of cases, how large the investment balances are that the different authorities hold. So we're in the fortunate position of having relatively large balances, which enables the council to invest for longer durations. And for example, within that higher yielding strategy are some loans to other local authorities which don't mature until the mid-2030s. Whereas there may be other authorities where the cash is required on a much more rolling basis to meet liquidity purposes, so it comes in and out a lot more quickly. If that helps.
It does, thank you. So generally, it's a good thing.
Yes, it's something that needs to be balanced. We need to make sure that the money is liquid and available when it's required. But for any money that isn't needed for day-to-day purposes, we can tie it up for a bit longer and gain a greater return.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions or queries? No? Are you happy to receive this Treasury Management Statement for submission to the Executive? Okay. Hands, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Rob.
Thank you.
Agenda item 9, which is an update on the anti-bribery and anti-fraud and corruption policies.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll cover this report if you like. This is a standard report that the Audit Committee should receive as a minimum every 2 years, if anything else happens within that duration that requires us to address any changes to any of these 3 policies, then we would bring an update back sooner. But failing which, every 2 years we should bring back the policy just to make sure that it's been refreshed and any issues addressed. The 3 are presented to you. I'm afraid to say that they probably haven't been back to you in the usual 2-year period. We tracked back, and it's more like 3 to 4 years since they were at the Audit Committee. So apologies for that. But we've now picked them up and they will be dealt with regularly. The 3 policies are before you: the anti-bribery and anti-fraud and corruption used to sit with our internal audit services under Neil, but actually it's not appropriate for internal audit to be dealing with operational and policy matters. They are there to make assessments of our operational and policy matters, not to be responsible for them. So we've moved those across from internal audit to our finance service, where it's more appropriate for them to take control of those, and the whistleblowing policy sits with our HR service. There weren't any changes made to the policies. They were all absolutely up to date, and the whistleblowing one was subject to discussion with our trade union colleagues, and they had no matters to raise. So colleagues, it's more of a sort of making sure that we bring it back to you, so that we've made sure that you're aware that they are refreshed every 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Councillor House.
Yes, thank you, Keith. On the whistleblowing policy and the transfer of that to finance, how do we deal with a situation where a whistleblower has got a complaint about a finance-related function? Sorry, Councillor House. It's only the first 2 that have transferred. It's only the anti-bribery and the anti-fraud and corruption that have gone to finance. Sorry, I misread the last bit in a hurry there. Sorry, whistleblowing stays with HR. Okay, so a different variation on the question, really. How do we ensure, or do we ensure, that a whistleblower who has their case proved to be broadly correct, how do we ensure they're celebrated rather than castigated? We do lessons learned, if there are. I'm trying to think, Neil, if there have been any, I mean, I'm not aware of any particular whistleblowing that we've dealt with, but certainly the policy is very clear that we do not look to castigate individuals who have raised matters that are through the whistleblowing policy, and indeed, where appropriate, they are kept confidential. I'm not aware of any particular whistleblowing that we've had to deal with recently, Neil, have we?
No, nothing.
By recent, I mean years.
Yeah. As I say, you know, in just really to corroborate what you say, in respect of any whistleblower is entitled to anonymity if that's what they require. They get feedback in respect of the outcome of any whistleblowing investigation that is undertaken, and as I say, if there are things to be founded, there would be a lessons learned and actions put in place to rectify them on the part of the council.
And certainly, depending on the severity of that, would depend whether that would come as high as to the corporate management team. And as we have a clear strategy around being a learning organisation, and therefore to take lessons learned from any circumstance or any report. Take that forward and make sure that we make any changes in policy, regulation, behaviour, culture. So if it were to happen, we would take that seriously as being an opportunity for the organisation to learn and put right.
That is exactly as I would have hoped, Chairman. It may well be the case, and I very much hope it is. It can often be really difficult for a whistleblower to have the confidence to bring something forward when they feel there's something that's gone wrong, and to be able to then track through how the organisation deals with that after the finding, particularly if the finding is in favour of the concerns the whistleblower has raised, and particularly where the whistleblower then feels that their particular career might be somewhat challenged internally by the issue that's been raised. I'm conscious that the making a disclosure externally part of the policy says that where a worker may wish to raise a concern externally to contacts following an issue which they believe hasn't been resolved, even if it's been reported as resolved, they should report to a member of the council. Do we give? I don't recall. This may well be me getting it wrong. I don't recall being given guidance as a member of the council what I should then do with such an issue.
That's a good question,
I
Councillor
can't
House.
recall either, no.
If you don't mind, can I take that away to our Democratic Services colleagues and investigate that for you? Thank you.
Yeah, I have an issue, that's the point, which kind of flummoxed me.
Okay. I'll take it back to Democratic Services. Would you like me to make sure somebody gets in touch with you directly, Councillor House? Will do. Thank you very much.
Doesn't mean your answer was perfect, you know, and I wouldn't expect any other than perfect. But
Thank you.
I'm flummoxed by some correspondence that's come my way.
Okay, I will investigate and then get in contact with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, whistleblowing is it's a horrible thing to face up to, isn't it? And come to a decision. And so it's very, very important that the procedures we have in place are good and understanding.
Absolutely, it definitely is.
Councillor Mitchell?
Thank you, Chair. Unusually, I find myself about to make exactly the same point that Councillor House made, which was around making sure that members know what to do if someone approaches them. And I was wondering whether it might be, I mean, I shouldn't really suggest this because I'm terrible at going to members' briefings, but it might be a good subject for a members' briefing now that the policies have formally come to the Audit Committee refreshed. It might be a good opportunity to tell members about the policies and this one in particular.
Yes, indeed.
Chairman, if I can be left to investigate, and certainly we do a complete members refresh briefing post the election in May next year, so that it may be an opportunity to make sure that it is consolidated within that briefing for next year. But certainly wherever I get to, I'll make sure that all councillors are informed as to how they should deal with a whistleblowing contact by way of an email communication in the interim period, if that's acceptable.
Thank you. Members, any other comments or questions? Councillor Philpott?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. In regard to that, I mean, the flexibility, really, I was going to ask if Carolyn could be flexible in terms of that, bearing in mind that my area in Gosport and Havant too has just entered into Tier 3. We're liable to have a lockdown period in January. I would say that there must be a question mark hanging over. I would suggest whether there's going to be an election in May again. This could be 50-50. That if we are going to wait until after May before we issue that sort of refresh, are you comfortable in doing that, or would you think that Councillor Mitchell would prefer that it be moved forward to an earlier date?
Chairman, I was suggesting two aspects. One, that I will provide a response by email directly to all councillors as to how to deal with any whistleblowing. And then I'm happy if councillors would like me to suggest that this is covered in a members' briefing between now and May, then I'm happy to ask our Democratic Services colleagues to do so, and also to make sure it's covered in May as well, if that would be your preference.
Councillor House.
Yeah, just following up on Stephen's comment, I think that the government seems to take the view at the moment that even in Tier 3 areas, there's no difficulty with elections going ahead because arrangements can be put in place and there can be a massive campaign on postal voting. We would then be 2 years without elections, which I think in terms of democratic deficit would be pretty stunning. But in the meantime, I'm quite content that I never thought I'd say this, but like Councillor Mitchell just now, but I never thought I'd say this, but I'm quite intrigued by the idea that I support Matt Hancock in having locked Stephen down with Peter Chegwin for the next few weeks.
Fortunately, Chairman, Peter and I are not in the same bubble, and I will resist any temptation to get into the same bubble with him too.
Okay, members, with that, are you happy to note the refreshed policy documents? Thank you. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
We've got agenda item 10, which is minutes of the Hampshire Pension Fund panel. Members have any comments or questions? Are we happy to accept those? Note them. Thank you.
Noted.
That's both sets of minutes. Members, are we agreed? Thank you. With that, members, I think that brings us to the end of the agenda. Hold on, let me. It does indeed. Members, thank you very much for your attendance, and happy Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas, Chairman. Merry
Happy
Christmas,
Christmas.
colleagues. Oh, Councillor. Oh.